Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. Yesterday on YouTube, I had a tutorial and it was based on the Brother Scan and Cut. I showed you how to cut out stamped images from the Back on Your Feet stamp set. I also showed this card as one of the many examples of what you can do after you cut out stamped images. One of my viewers and channel supporters, Lynn, asked me if I would please do a tutorial on the double folded card that I showed where both sides open. Okay, so this is how the card opens. This is a pretty easy card to make, and I was actually doing some projects with this today. So Lynn, this video is dedicated to you. And the actual name for this kind of fold is called a gatefold. So in today's tutorial, I will show you how to create gatefold cards. But we're not going to be using Back on Your Feet stamp set because I've already made a lot of cards with that one yesterday. Instead, I'm going to use the Bird Ballad Designer Series paper for this gatefold card project. The reason I'm using this paper is because I have a lot of embellishments already cut out to decorate with. Okay, let me just show you the stack of paper. And I want to point out that next week, or actually this week, not next week, September 4th, we're having a sale. Buy 3 packs of Designer Series paper and get 1 free. So this is the time to stock up on Designer Series paper. So this is Bird Ballad. It's beautiful. And many of these patterns cut out beautifully with the scan and cut, as you're going to see some of the embellishments I made. Okay, that was the other side of that paper. We have some feathers and some beautiful flowers. Okay, whenever I get Designer Series paper, I always look at the coordinating colors. And the coordinating colors for this pack of Bird Ballad Designer Series paper are Basic Black, Basic Gray, Bermuda Bay, Calypso Coral, Crumb Cake, Daffodil Delight, Old Olive, Petal Pink, Pool Party, Smokey Slate, Soft Suede, and Whisper White. So then the question is, what do I have a lot of? And I have a lot of this one. I have a lot of this one called Smokey Slate. So that's how I decided which one I was going to use for the card bases. Okay, what you need to do is take a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. You're going to take it out of the package. You're going to lay it horizontally onto your Simply Scored or whatever scoring tool you have. Now what I like about the Simply Scored tool by Stampin' Up! Is that there are these little markers that help me when I'm doing multiple projects. I will have all of these measurements in the description of this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay the paper horizontally so that I have 11 inches across. And I'm going to go ahead and score at 2.75 inches. The scoring tool comes with the Simply Scored, and there's a little place that it fits right down at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you use the big side or the small side to score. I tend to use the small side when I'm making cards and the big side when I'm making flowers. Okay, after you score at 2.75, then you also need to score at 8.25. Okay, now I just created score lines for 2 cards. That was just one step that will save you time. Okay, next you need to get a paper trimmer. I'm using a Martha Stewart paper trimmer because, yay, I just found new blades for it. I'm going to open it up. Okay, so don't fold along your score lines yet, because when you're going to cut your paper into a card, you don't want to have folded score lines. It won't cut as evenly. Okay, now I'm going to turn it, instead of horizontally, I'm going to turn it vertically, portrait style. Okay, so notice my score lines are still there, here and here. I'm going to turn this and I'm going to score. I'm going to cut now. So I start out with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So what I'm going to do now is cut it in half. I'm going to cut it 4.25. Okay, so 4.25. I'll actually show you that a little bit closer up. And focus that. So that's what I'm cutting. I'm vertical and I'm cutting 4.25. Okay, I have a nice clean cut because I have a new blade for this particular paper trimmer. Okay, so now I'm going to put this back on my Simply Score because I like to do it. I like to actually do my folding along this scoring tool. It just gives me a nice board to hold on to. Okay, so I scored down into the paper, into the cardstock, but when I fold it, So that's called a valley when you score down. And when they fold that, it's a mountain. So I take the valley and I fold it up into a mountain. Now I'm going to flip it over. So now what I do is I take my spatula, use whatever spatula you have, and I'm just using this little spatula I have, and I like to put it up against my Simply Scored when I'm making cards, and I just like to do that to flatten out the card. I'll show you different ways to adhere, or not to adhere, to make these cards stay together a little better, because they do pop open a little bit. This kind of gatefold card. I'm going to flip it over and just do that to the other side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and okay, so there's my gatefold card, and that's as simple as that. Okay, now when you open it back up, just to review, this was 11 inches across, and you could have just started with so this is 11 inches long by 4.25 inches wide, and your score lines are at 2.75 and 8.25. This will be in the description. Okay, again, I have these score lines, they're down, and I'm going to fold them up into a mountain. So I'm flipping that over and just flatten it out as best you can. And I'm using Smokey Slate cardstock because it goes with and coordinates with my suite, and because I have a lot of it. So use whatever cardstock. It's good to have high quality cardstock for this project. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the inner, so the mats for this. So when you have the inside of the card is not a problem. I'm just going to grab ones I've already cut for this. Okay, the inside is just like when you're making any card. I have a piece of white cardstock. I'm going to open up the inside, and now just to review, so like this is like any card. This would be 5.5 wide by 4.25. Okay, so the inside is. So therefore, what do? What I do with all my mats, I make them 1/4 inch smaller. So we have a mat that's 4 inches by 5.25. Okay, I would do that on the front of any card that I was making. And by the way, this is an A2 card, A-2. Gonna put a little bit of adhesive on it. You could stamp it first. You could stamp your sentiment on there. But I have all my sentiments stamped already, because I do everything in assembly line. I have everything already cut out, all the embellishments, and I just don't have the designer series paper cut yet. Best to stand over the top of it when you mount it to get that nice 1/4 inches around all the sides. Okay, so the inside of your card is just a plain piece of cardstock. You could use any coordinating color that goes with the suite. Well, this, I think the only one right now that I have in this pile, because these are my Perennial Essence ones. This is just the Whisper White would be the only one that coordinates. So we'll do that to both cards, and now you're going to make the matting for the inside. So these are 2.75. So I need the matting to be 2.5 wide. Okay, and then this is 4.25. So I need the matting to be 4 inches. Again, it will be in the description. So I need to go ahead and make 2 cute little mats that are 2.5 by 4 inches wide. I'm going to use the designer series paper that goes with the suite, and let's just see what will look nice. Okay, this is too busy, and I already have a lot of these cut out. The flowers I think look nice, so we can go ahead and use those. And I'm just going to use my paper trimmer, and I'm going to make them 2.5 inches wide. And by the way, it depends on if you want your pattern to match up on both sides. I particularly I'm not worried about my pattern matching up, but I'll show you how to match it up. So I'm going to say 2.5. And if you want this pattern to match up, you would just do another one next to it. See, so then this pattern would stop and it would continue across on the card. So 2.5. You don't have to do that. In fact, it doesn't matter for this, I don't think at all. Okay, so now these two will go. Let me just show you what I mean. They're going to match up because I just cut them next to each other. See, so where one pattern stops, the other pattern continues on the other side. And it does look a little nicer. So, I mean, it is a good idea. And then you're just going to go ahead and cut them to be 4. They were 2.5, and they're going to be 4 inches. Okay, that one went on the right side. And I'll also show you how to make a belly band, and I'll show you other examples, so please stick around. Even if you're like, this is too easy, there's other examples. Okay, and 4. So there we go. So that's how we make our the little mats for the gatefold. Basically, whenever you're making mats and layers, the rule of thumb for me, just in card making, is always make them 1/4 inch smaller than whatever panel they're going to be on. Okay, and then I add a couple little rows of rolling adhesive with whatever rolling adhesive you like to use. Stand over it to make it centered. When you stand above something or sit above something, that's more likely to be centered properly. Okay, so that's that. And we'll do this side. I guess that's not the one I put the inside in, but that's okay. I'll put a white inside in that one as well, because I have extras cut out. Again, when I usually cut all these out ahead of time, all the pieces I need. And by the way, I do use my scan and cut when cutting out all of these different card layers whenever I have projects going on. So I did cut out these white pieces earlier. I want the card to be done, so that's why I'm just going to go ahead and add this white center here. But it's nice that from an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, you get 2 cards out of it. And many people ask, do you use your Brother Scan and Cut? I do use my Brother Scan and Cut for making the card bases if I'm using 12 by 12 paper. But when I have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, no, I don't use my Scan and Cut, because I get more out of the paper just by cutting it directly on the scoreboard. Okay, so now we're going to embellish the card. And then I'll also show you how to make a little belly band to go around the card. Okay, but let's give you something to look at. I'll just put the belly band I made earlier on this card, and then that's what we're going for, something like that. And I'm going to put that on this card, and then we'll show you how I made that little belly band. Bend the card a little bit and slip it on. Okay, so that's one way to keep your card closed. Another way is ribbon, another way is twine. There's just so many ways to keep your card closed. So what I like to do now is I like to take my embellishments that I've already have pre-cut. So these are, I've done tutorials on how to cut out patterned paper using the Brother Scan and Cut. So do a search on YouTube for Bird Ballad, B-I-R-D, Bird Ballad Designer Series Paper. I showed how to cut this out using your Scan and Cut. So then we have all these little birds, and we have all of these little, some of them even have little layers on them. Okay, like this one. And I think for this, I want to put the ones with the little layers on them. You see how it has a little, here, let me put that on. See how it has a little old olive layer in the back? So when I cut it, it has a layer, and that will be better for contrasting along with the flowers. Okay, so that's what I'm going to embellish with. I like how this bird is pointing that way. And let's see if I have any more that have layers on them. Here's another one that has a layer on it, and it's pointing to the right as well. Let's see if I can get one that's pointing to the left. And it doesn't matter if I don't, we'll just have it this one. And he doesn't have a layer behind him. Seems like all the ones with layers behind him are all pointing in the same direction. We're going to save this. We're going to save this embellishment because this will make a great belly band. Beautiful pieces like that. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, this is good. This is good. So we're going to have, I'll have this one pointing, and I'm going to have this one over on this side. So like that. Now I like to, whenever I embellish, I like to have 3 of whatever I'm doing. So I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to put these 2 on this side, this one on this side, and I'm not going to use this one right now. He's too drab. And then I'm going to take one of these little sentiments that I've already have cut out, and I'm just going to use one of them. So let's just try the different ones. I think that one looks better. It has a Bermuda Bay background, the hello, as opposed to the one with the old olive background. So you just, if you have a bunch of different sentiments, you can see then which will contrast. And this way, thanks for being you, would also work really well. but I think I'm going to go with this hello right there. And I'm going to go for something like that where I put a few of these little embellishments on my card. And then I'll have it decorated and I can add a sort of a belly band and leave a little bit of room for that. Okay, so let's just add some adhesive to those. And you can use foam adhesive, rolling adhesive. I'm just using a little bit of this. I like this type of adhesive. It's called ATG, or Advanced Tape Glider, and it's pretty good. So it works. Well, it's just that, you know what? I go through so much adhesive. I need something industrial. I just refilled 3 of these today. Well, my husband did. I mean, I like to use a lot of adhesive. So that's why I need a lot. So I might also use foams. And then we'll put that one there. And I could also put this one on the band, but the belly band's going to have the little flares on it just to show you how cool that is. And that's just, you know, you could just do all different kinds of things. And then if you want, you can take little feathers, and you can also embellish with feathers, and you can also take little rhinestones. Okay, I'm going to show you one I did earlier. And this is with the Bird Ballad Designer Series paper. And I didn't do anything to the inside. So I just added some, this is Bird Ballad Designer Series paper with a few little birds, a few little feathers, and a few little rhinestones. The rhinestones are from the Noble Peacock. And I don't know if this one, I think this one's so busy, it doesn't need rhinestones like that one does. But just to give you just different options. Okay, so for the belly band, when you have a card that's a gatefold card, you need a way to close it. You can either use a little bit, you can use like Velcro, string. I'll have different samples of things I use. Or in this case, you can use a belly band if you have a cute little design you can use for a belly band. Now I cut these out with the Brother Scan and Cut, and I thought these make great belly bands. So I'm taking this one with the keys on it. It's a nice little vintage piece of paper, and I'm just going to take one. I'm going to go 1 inch for my belly band. And by the way, this is 12 inch. I'm taking the actual long, the 12-inch piece of Designer Series paper. On the other side was this flowers, and I'm going to cut the key out 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch by 12 inch. Again, all of these measurements will be in the description. You could score this, but I tend to not score it. I'd rather, because it depends on what's on my card. I don't like to score it, I like to wrap it and then figure out what size I need it, because it depends on how thick my card is, and every time it's quite, a little different depending on how many embellishments I have on my card. So I'm just folding it like that around the side of my card and overlapping it. And then I want to make it just a little, so once it overlaps, then I want to make it a little bit bigger. So once it overlaps, that's a little tight. I make it a little bit bigger by just pushing a little bit to the side, and then I fold it down. So now it's scored. It's kind of scored, but it's just folded. Okay, so that's my belly band, and now it overlaps a little bit, see? But it's also not too tight. Okay, so now I can put a little bit of adhesive on that. I just use, again, rolling adhesive, and I shut that. Okay, so then let's lay it down flat. Okay, so before I get too far and spend all kinds of time adding the little flowers on it, what I like to do is I just like to slide it onto a card. Let me get rid of this one. And I'm just going to slide this one on. So to slide it on, you're going to bend the card slightly to get it to go on there. And I'm just making sure it still fits, that it's not too tight. And it's not too tight. It's okay. Okay, so I'm okay with that. So now that I know it'll fit onto my cute card, I'm going to put this little flourish on it now. And for that, I just use glue, or you could use rolling adhesive, and maybe something like that, because the bird won't be laying on his side. See, like you want the bird sitting up on the branch. So maybe something like that. But of course, you're not going to adhere this part. You're only adhering the part onto the band itself. And you could use glue dots, liquid glue, whatever you want to adhere that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some glue on it, and then I'm going to lay it on there. Okay, maybe then tilt it a little bit. So now I need to take this off so it doesn't actually stick on my card, and maybe add some more glue. So like this little part could use a little more glue. Oh no, it's good. I think it's good. And then you make sure there's no glue oozing out the back, which it's not. Put your cap back on your glue. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add my belly band to my card, and just I would make sure that's dry. And shut your card and tilt your card a little bit. Tilt your card. And what's nice about this is it just mails flat too. It's just a regular card and it mails flat. So now you have this beautiful, beautiful card that you can write a note in. And the card itself is a gift. When you put a little belly band on it, it's a gift in itself. Okay, so that was one example. Okay, this is another example. This one was, I had it in a bag, as you saw. So it would be a sample I would send someone, customer, like a thank you note or something. So that's why I put that one in there. I didn't need to have an enclosure for it because I just put it in the bag, see, like that. So that's your example there. So you don't need a belly band when you put it in a bag because it stays flat. There's the belly band. And then I'm going to show you other examples. Well, I already showed you the example. Here's the example, the gatefold card with the with the get well style. And then these are embossed, so you could take your panels, which I just showed you how to make, and you can emboss the panels with an embossing folder. This was layered leaves embossing folder. And lastly, I have another example. I have to grab it. I'm going to do a big reach. And by the way, I just want to tell you, I didn't stamp this in the video, but the hello and the thank you are from this stamp set that goes along with the Bird Ballad Designer Series paper. It is called Free as a Bird. And that's where the hello comes from, and that's where the thank you comes from in my examples here of the cards. Okay, so that's called Free as a Bird. Now, another stamp set I've shown you on YouTube before is called Over the Moon. Simply adorable little cows. So if you want to know how to cut these out, just search for Over the Moon, cutting stamped images, and my video will come up because I did it a few months ago on YouTube, how to cut out these cows. And here's an example of a gatefold card you can create using the Over the Moon stamp set and cutting out the cows. And this is just another way of enclosing a gatefold card. So I'm using blueberry bushel as the background, so blueberry bushel, and I'm using just a piece of twine that I got out of this last month's paper pumpkin kit, just a little piece of little twine. And it makes it really easy to close the card. And I've used Wink of Stella on the cows. I colored the cows to match the Perennial Essence Designer Series paper. And I put a few little blueberry bushel rhinestones on there, and I'm just going to open it up and show you that inside is another piece of Perennial Essence Designer Series paper that says you're utterly fantastic, and you can write your message on there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create gatefold cards, and I hope you'll give these a try. Make some cards yourself, and Lynn, I hope this is what you were looking for. I hope you can give this a try with your future card projects. Bye for now. This is the Papered Chef.